So this is a Trinity College London Grade 1 Group B piece. So as it's a Group B piece, that means it's not played with a backing track, okay? So this is a drum solo, it's just us playing. So looking at the sheet music, at the top of the page in the middle, you've got the song title, which is Three Wise Monkeys. Beneath that to the left-hand side, it says funk. So that's the genre or the style of the piece, okay? So we're playing a funk piece. Beside that, it says a quarter note equals 90. So that's the tempo of the piece. So there's going to be a quarter note pulse, and there's going to be 90 quarter notes every minute. Okay, so that's 90 beats per minute. Beneath that, we've got our first bar of music. So you can see at the start of the bar, you've got your percussion clef, which lets you know it's drum notation on the stave. Beside that, we've got our time signature. So the time signature for this piece is 3/4. So we've got a 3 at the top, which tells us there's 3 beats in the bar. So for each bar, we're going to be feeling 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and the bottom number being 4 tells you each one of those beats is a quarter note. Okay, so each one of those beats that we're counting and feeling is a quarter note. So we've got quarter note, quarter note, quarter note. So we've got 3 quarter note beats per bar. Okay, so we're going to be playing in 3 for this piece. So looking at our first bar of music, in the first bar we've got a nice fill to come in with, a nice intro fill. We've got a quarter note on 1, 8th notes on 2, and 16 notes on the downbeat and an 8th note on the upbeat on the 3. Okay, so the rhythm for that bar is 1, 2, and 3 and. 1, 2, and 3 and. So we're going to play a right hand on the 1 on the snare drum. Then we're going to play a right left on the 2 and on the high tom. And then we're going to play a right left right for 3 and on the floor tom. Okay, so you've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's just try just that feel. We'll loop it through just to get used to that feel, get used to the sticking, get used to the rhythm, get used to playing this at the song tempo. So we'll try it with a metronome at the song tempo, which is 90 beats per minute. Beneath the bar, you can see the dynamic we've got. So we've got an MF, which is short for mezzo forte, which means half loud. So you want to play this at about your normal playing level. Okay, so let's try bar 1. And at the end of bar 1, you can see we've got a double bar line. So that indicates a musical change. So looking at bar 2 of the piece, you can see above the start of the bar, we've got the letter A in a box. So that lets us know it's section A of the song, the first section of the song. So that fill you played is like an intro into the first section of the song. Okay, so if we look at the first 2 bars of section A, which are bars 2 and 3 of the piece, we've got a kind of groove starting now. Okay, it's not a full groove, it's just cymbal and bass drum. So looking at bar 1 on the cymbal, you've got quarter note on the crash, quarter note on hi-hat, quarter note on hi-hat. So we just got 1, 2, 3, just hitting those down beats. So if we try that now, 1, 2, 3. So that's the right hand part, and then with the bass drum, you've got 8th notes on the 1, quarter note rest on 2, 8th note rest on 3, and an 8th note on the and of 3. So we're hitting the 1, the and of 1, and the and of 3. Okay, so we've got quarter notes with the right hand on the cymbal, and we've got that bass drum rhythm. Okay, so let's just try the bass drum rhythm first of all. So we've got 1, 2, 3. And against the pulse. Okay, so you've got a couple of upbeats in there. So obviously your hands are only playing downbeats. Let's try to put the 2 rhythms together. We've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's bar 1, so you need to be really accurate with those crotchets, those quarter notes, hitting those downbeats. And then in the next bar, so bar 3 of the piece, bar 2 of section A, we've got a hand rhythm on the cymbal again, so we're on the hi-hat now. We've got quarter note on 1, quarter note on 2, 8th notes on the 3. So we're going to play the 2 quarter notes with the right hand, and we're going to play the 8th notes right left. So with the cymbal, you've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, then on the bass drum, you're just playing a quarter note on the 1, and you've got a quarter note rest on 2 and 3. Okay, so let's try those 2 rhythms now. The hi-hat and the bass drum rhythm. We've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, So now we're going to try and put those two bars together. So the first two bars are section A. So we're still at mezzo forte for these two bars, half loud. So let's try those two bars now and we'll loop it through 4 times. And then in the next bar, so bar 3 of section A, bar 4 of the piece, you've got the same rhythm you played in the first bar of section A. We just haven't got that crash cymbal on the 1. It just plays the hi-hat, okay? So you've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, and in the last bar of the first line, we've got quarter notes on the hi-hat for 1 and 2, and then we've got eighth notes on the high tom for 3. So you're going to play right, left there. So the same rhythm again you played in the second bar of section A, we're just replacing those hi-hats on the 3 and to the high tom. Okay, so there's eighth notes. Right, so let's try the last bar of the line. We've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we're going to put those two bars together now. So bars 3 and 4 of section A, which are bars 4 and 5 of the piece. Okay, and again, we're still at mezzo forte for these two bars. And now we'll try the whole of line 1. So we've got that intro feel coming in at mezzo forte, and then we come into section A where the groove kicks in. So it's a groove without the snare drum, so it's not a full groove. Okay, so let's try the whole of line 1. So now we come into line 2. So you can see there's a number 6 above the first bar of line 2, letting you know it's bar 6 of the piece. So looking at the first 3 bars of line 2, you can see we're playing the same thing that we played in the first 3 bars of section A. So that like incomplete groove. So we're playing the cymbal and the bass drum. Still no snare drum, okay? We're kind of building it in a minute. So if we look at the last bar of line 2, we've got a fill, whole bar. So we've got a 1 bar fill. We've got a hand rhythm. So we've got an eighth note on the downbeat, 16 notes on the upbeat on the 1. So you've got 1 and a. And then we've got eighth notes on the 2, 2 and then eighth notes on the 3, 3 and. So we've got the first beat on the snare drum. So we got, so right, right, left. And then the second beat on the high tom. Right, left for the eighth notes. And then the third beat on the low tom. So again, playing right, left. Okay, so let's put those 3 beats together. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you got 1 and a 2 and 3 and then the second rhythm is just a bass drum for a quarter note on the 1, and then we've got quarter note rest on 2 and 3. So just playing that bass drum on the 1. Okay, so put those 2 together. Okay, so let's try that fill. We'll loop it again just to get used to the rhythm and the sticking, and we're still at mezzo forte for this fill. And now as we're playing in 2 bar phrases for this piece, we're going to play the previous bar as well. Okay, so we're going to play bar 8, which is the 3rd bar of line 2, and also bar 9, which is the 4th bar of line 2. Okay, so we've got a quarter note groove on the hi-hat for bar 8, playing the bass drum on the 1, the end of 1, and the end of 3. And then we go into that 1 bar fill. Okay, so let's try bars 8 and 9. And now we'll try the whole of line 2. So now we come on to line 3. So you can see above the first bar of line 3, you've got the number 10 there, letting you know it's bar 10 of the piece. So in that bar, we've got a quarter note rhythm with the hands again. So you've got a quarter note on the crash, quarter note on hi-hat, another quarter note on hi-hat, but now the snare's coming in on the second beat. Okay, so you're going to play in unison with the hi-hat, okay, on that second beat. So let's try the hand rhythm there. We got 1, 2, 3. And then the bass drum is playing the same rhythm that you played in the previous 2 lines. So we've got those eighth notes on 1, quarter note rest on 2, eighth note rest on 3, and an eighth note on the upbeat of 3. So the bass drum's playing 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this is actually pretty much the same thing you've already played, but we're just bringing in that snare on the second beat, okay? We're completing the groove. So now you've got that full 3/4 groove sound. Okay, so let's try that first bar of line 3, bar 10. We got 1, 2, 3. Okay, and as we're playing in 2-bar phrases, we'll look at the next bar as well. So you've got quarter notes with the hands again. 1, 2, 3 on the hi-hat. Second beat on the snare drum as well, playing in unison with the hi-hat. So the hands are playing 1, 2, 3. And then a bass drum on the 1, okay? So again, same bass drum rhythm that you played in the previous section. So the second bar rhythm, we're just playing that bass drum on 1. So putting those 2 rhythms together in the second bar of line 3, we've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we're going to put those 2 bars together now. So bars 10 and 11, the first 2 bars of line 3. And you can see beneath the first bar of line 3, you've got an F there, which is short for forte, which means loud. So we're going to play these 2 bars loud. So let's try and loop these 2 bars now just to get used to that full groove now with all 3 parts: cymbal, snare drum and bass drum. And then bar 3 of line 3, which is bar 12 of the piece, we've got a hand rhythm of 1, 2 and 3 and. So you can see we've got a quarter note, eighth notes, eighth notes. So the right hand is just playing downbeats on the hi-hat again. So 1, 2, 3. And the left hand is coming in on the and of 2 and the and of 3 on the snare drum. So we've got 1, 2, 3. Bass drum rhythm, just playing eighth notes on the 1, and we've got a quarter note rest on 2 and 3, so it's just playing 1, 2, 3. Rest, rest. Okay, so rest for 2 and 3. So we've put those 2 rhythms together. We've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's try that bar now. We'll loop it through to get used to that rhythm and the sticking. And remember, we're at forte for this bar, so let's try bar 12. And in the last bar of line 3, bar 13 of the piece, we've got the hand rhythm playing quarter note on 1 on the hi-hat, quarter note on 2 on the crash and snare together. Okay, and then we've got 16 notes on the downbeat and an eighth note on the upbeat on the floor tom. So you've got 3 and, play that right, left, right. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and. Let's try that. 1, 2, 3. And again, the bass drum rhythm is just playing eighth notes on the 1. So we've got a quarter note rest on 2 and 3 again. Okay, so let's put those 2 rhythms together. We've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's try that bar now to get used to that bar. So we've got bar 13, and again, we're at forte for this bar. And again, because we're playing in 2-bar phrases, we'll put those 2 bars together, so bars 12 and 13, which are bars 3 and 4 of line 3. And now we'll try the whole of line 3. So remember, we're at forte for this line. So we crash into that full groove now, that full 2-bar groove. And then we've got to change up in the next 2 bars where we're just bringing those upbeats on the snare drum and then finishing with that 1-beat fill. And obviously we've got that crash on the 2nd beat in the last bar as well, which is very like funk, okay? Crashing on the backbeat with the snare. It's good effect. All right, so let's try the whole of line 3. And that brings us to the end of section A. So we're going to play that intro bar, the very first bar, that fill, and then the whole of section A. Okay, so we crash in with that 2-bar incomplete groove because we haven't got the snare drum in. We've got those quavers coming in, those 8th notes on the hi-hat and the high tom in line 1. And then we come into a similar thing in line 2, finish with that 1-bar fill, and that brings us into line 3 where we're at forte. So we need to bring the dynamic up to forte, and we complete the groove by bringing in that snare drum. A little change up in bar 3, and again you've got that crash on the backbeat on the last bar, and then finishing with that 1-beat fill. Okay, so remember, when you come in at the start, you're at mezzo forte, and then we've got that dynamic change in the 3rd line to forte. So let's try the whole of section A. So into the 4th line, we start section B. So you can see we've got the letter B in a box, just letting us know it's section B. And there's also a 14 there, letting you know it's bar 14 of the piece, that first bar of section B. So if we look at bar 14, we've got a hand rhythm of 1, 2, 3 ands. We've got a quarter note, 8th notes. So you're going to play quarter note on the hi-hat for the 1, quarter note on the hi-hat and snare for the 2, and then we've got a 8th note on the hi-hat for 3, and an 8th note on the snare drum for the under 3. So you've got right, left. So that hand rhythm is 1, 2, 3. And the bass drum just playing 8th notes again. So you just got 1 and on the bass drum resting on 2 and 3. So you got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's try that bar now, bar 14. We'll loop it through, just get used to that bar. And then in the next 2 bars, we've got 1-bar repeats. So we just need to play that groove another 2 times. Okay, so you can see above the first 1-bar repeat, we've got the number 2 in brackets, letting you know it's the 2nd time of playing that groove. And then above the next 1-bar repeat in bar 3 of section B, you've got the number 3, letting you know it's the 3rd time of playing that groove. Okay, so those numbers in brackets just help you keep count to know where you are in the piece. So we play that groove for 3 bars, and then we come into the final bar of line 4. We've got a hand rhythm of 1, 2 and 3 and. So we've got a quarter note, 8th notes, and then 16 notes on the downbeat and an 8th note on the upbeat. So we've got a quarter note on the hi-hat for 1, 8th note on the hi-hat for 2, 8th note on the snare for the end of 2, and then you've got 3 and on the snare drum. Right, left, right. So the hand rhythm is 1, 2, 3. And then again, the bass drum just playing 8th notes on the 1, and we've got a quarter note rest on 2 and 3. So those 2 rhythms together now for the last bar of the 4th line. Okay, so get that down, and then what we're going to do once you've got the sticking down, you're comfortable with the rhythm, we're going to bring in the dynamics. So beneath the bar, you can see we've got the letter P there, which is short for piano, which means soft. So we're going to play this quiet, this bar. Okay, so let's try that bar now. So the final bar of the 4th line, which is bar 17. Okay, we'll try and loop that through at piano. And now we're going to play the whole of line 4, which is the first line of section B, so bars 14 to 17. So in bar 14, we're still at forte. Okay, we come in with that groove, and you can see beneath bars 14, 15 and 16, we've got a diminuendo, okay, which means we get quieter. So we're at forte for the start of the bar, the start of section B, and we bring it down that crescendo through those 3 bars. You can see beneath bar 17, we've got piano. So we need to come down from forte all the way through to piano. Okay, so it's quite a dynamic difference. Okay, so let's try the whole of line 4 now. So on to line 2 of section B, which is line 5 of the piece. As you can see, we've got the number 18 above that first bar of line 5, letting you know it's bar 18 of the piece. So now we've got a hand rhythm of 1, 2, 3 and. So we've got a quarter note, and then 8th notes on the 3. So for this hand rhythm, we're over onto the ride cymbal. So the right hand's going to come across to the ride. So we've got a ride cymbal on the 1 for a quarter note, ride cymbal on the 2 with the snare drum for a quarter note, and then we've got a ride cymbal on the 3 for an 8th note, and a floor tom on the upbeat, so the and for an 8th note. Okay, so that hand rhythm is 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we come across after that snare to this side of the kit, so we just need to make room with that hand to hit that floor tom. And then the bass drums just playing 8th notes again, so we've just got 1 and then we've got a quarter note rest on 2 and 3. So put those 2 rhythms together, we've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then as we're playing in 2-bar phrases, again we'll look at the next bar. So in the next bar, bar 19 of the piece, we've got a quarter note rhythm with a hand. So we've got a ride cymbal for 1 on the quarter note, ride cymbal and snare for 2 as a quarter note, and a ride cymbal on the 3. So the hands are playing 1, 2, 3. And then on the bass drum, we've got an 8th note rest on the 1, and we're playing 8th note on the end of 1, and then we've got a quarter note rest on 2 and 3. So the bass drum just playing the end of 1. So you've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, just that and of 1 right in the middle of the first beat. So putting those 2 rhythms together to play bar 19, we've got 1, 2, 3. So the collective rhythm is 1 and 2, 3 for that bar. Okay, so we're going to put those 2 bars together, playing bars 18 and 19. So we'll try those 2 bars now. And remember, we're at piano. And then in the next 2 bars, which are bars 20 and 21 of the piece, we've got a very similar thing to which we played in the previous 2 bars, bars 18 and 19. So in bar 20, it's very similar to bar 18, but we're just crashing on the backbeat. Okay, so just moving your right hand across from the ride to the crash cymbal on the second beat. Okay, so bar 20 is 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that crash is the only difference from bar 18. You just got that funk effect crashing on that on the backbeat. Okay, for that bar. And then in bar 21, the final bar of that line, we're playing a very similar thing to what we played in bar 19. We're just crashing on the backbeat again. So you've got 1, 2, 3. And we've also got an 8th note on the and now. So we're going to play the mid tom on the and of 3. So you've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so very similar 2 bars to the previous 2 bars. Just adding those crashes on the backbeat and also that extra note on the mid-tom on the end of 3. So let's try those 2 bars now, bars 20 and 21. And now we'll try the whole of line 5. So remember, for this line we're at piano, so you want to play it all soft. So now coming into the final line of the piece, so the first bar of the final line is bar 22. So you can see we're number 22 there by that bar. So we've got a 1 bar fill for this bar. We've got 16 notes on the 1, 16 notes on the 2, and 8 notes on the 3. So your rhythm for this bar is 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 and. We've got 1 E and a. We're going to play a single strokes on the high tom. We've got 2 E and a single strokes on the snare drum. And then we've got 8 notes on the floor tom for the 3. Okay, so you've got 1, 2, 3. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 and you can see beneath the bar we've got a crescendo. So you're starting this bar at mezzo piano, half soft, and then you're crescendoing up to forte. Okay, so we've got quite a dynamic climb there from mezzo piano through to mezzo forte to forte. Okay, so you want to get louder as you play this fill. So let's try this fill now with the dynamics, mezzo piano crescendoing through to forte. And then in the next bar, bar 23, we've got a dotted half note on the crash, which lasts for 3 beats, which is the whole bar, because obviously we're playing in 3/4, there's 3 beats in the bar. So you're just going to crash on the 1 for the whole bar. And then on the bass drum, we've got a quarter note on 1, 8th notes on the 2, an 8th note rest on the 3, and an 8th note on the and of 3. So the bass drum rhythm is 1, 2, and rest and. 1, 2, and rest and. Okay, and then in the next bar, bar 24, we've got a crash for a quarter note on 1, we've got a snare for a quarter note on 2, we're going to play that with the left hand, and then we've got a snare for 8th notes on 3, so we're going to play right, left. So the hand rhythm for bar 24, we've got 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3 and the bass drum rhythm we're playing a quarter note on 1, we've got 8th note rest on 2, we're playing an 8th note on the upbeat of 2, which is the end of 2, then we've got a quarter note rest on 3. So the bass drum rhythm is 1, 2, 3. Okay, so putting those 2 rhythms together for that bar, we've got 1, 2, 3. So the collective rhythm for that bar is 1, 2, and 3 and. Okay, so we're going to try and put those 2 bars together, bars 23 and 24. And then in the next bar, we're playing the same thing that you played in bar 23. And then in the final bar, you can see it's the final bar because we've got that final bar line. We've just got a dotted half note on the crash cymbal, which lasts all 3 beats of the bar, and also a dotted half note on the bass drum that plays with it. Okay, so we're going to just play those at the same time. So we'll play bars 25 and 26 now, the final 2 bars of the piece. So now let's try the whole of the last line, line 6 of the piece, bar 22, 23, 24, 25 and 26. So you've got that fill coming in at mezzo piano, you've got crescendo on the fill to forte, and then we come in with that crash bass drum rhythm. Then the snare drum comes in the next bar. We go back to that same rhythm you had in bar 23, finish with the crash in the final bar. So let's try the whole of line 6. So now we're going to play the whole of section B. So section B starts at line 4, so bar 14 of the piece. So we're going to play from there all the way to the end of the piece. So at the start of section B, you've got that groove on the hi-hat, and we're at forte. So we're allowed coming into section B, but we've got a diminuendo as we repeat that groove another 2 times, okay? That diminuendo takes us right down to piano, so we need to get quieter as we're playing that groove for 3 bars. Then we hit the last bar of the first line of section B, where we've got the same groove at piano, and we've got that 1 beat fill on the snare drum. Coming down into the next line of section B, we're onto the ride cymbal now. We're still playing a groove, hitting that backbeat on 2 on the snare drum, and we're bringing in the toms. So we've got floor toms in that line, and also a mid tom at the end of the line, adding those crashes on the backbeats in the last 2 bars of that line. Then we come into the final line, we've got our 1 bar fill with a crescendo from mezzo piano to forte. We finish at forte for the piece, hitting that crash cymbal, bass drum rhythm, bringing in those snares, going back to that bass drum rhythm, and then ending with the crash cymbal. Okay, so let's try the whole of section B. And then the final thing to do is put the whole piece together. So we're going to play from top to bottom now. So we come in with our 1 bar fill at mezzo forte. Then we're into section A. We've got our incomplete groove where there's no snare drum initially. You've mainly got a quarter note fill. Okay, so you've just got to make sure all of those quarter notes are really precise and in time. If that timing's good, then all the other notes are going to fit in nicely around that quarter note rhythm. So we play through the first 2 lines, you finish the second line with that 1 bar fill, and then we come into the third line where the backbeat comes in. So that completes the groove. We've got that snare drum on the 2. We're up to forte for line 3, and then we're finishing with that 1 beat fill, coming into section B where we've got that immediate diminuendo, so we're getting quieter, through to piano, finishing the first line of section B with a 1 beat fill again, and then we're on to the ride cymbal. Okay, where we're playing the groove, just adding those toms in the groove. Coming to the last line, we've got our 1 bar fill with a crescendo up to forte, so we're finishing loud with that crash, bass drum and snare drum rhythms. Okay, so let's try the whole piece now from top to bottom. Make sure those quarter notes, those downbeats are really tight with the pulse of the song. So we're at 90 beats per minute. Let's try it all the way through. So remember, this is a group B piece, so there's no backing track. It's a drum solo, so it's just you playing by yourself. So you want to practice this with a metronome. The piece tempo is 90 beats per minute, but that's the tempo you want to get it to eventually. So start at a nice comfortable tempo for you so you can play in all the parts comfortably. Play through each part, so break down each bar, make sure you can play each bar, then try and put them in the 2-bar phrases, then play each line, then try and play the sections, and then put the whole piece together, okay? So don't be impatient, really make sure you're developing your drumming and you're getting a feel for each of these bars. Okay, obviously adding dynamics in as well is another thing, so you can take the dynamics out initially just to play the bar physically, and then add in the dynamics once you're comfortable with the physicality of the bar, okay? Put it all together with the metronome once you got to that song tempo, and then obviously try and take the metronome out to see if you can play it without the metronome and just rely on your internal time. Okay, so let's try that now. We're just going to finish off playing the whole piece all the way through without the metronome.